Okay, I think we are live now. We
We're
are
live.
going to wait a few more seconds for people to join, and then we'll just get started. So, yeah.
We got some people joining, so I think we can start.
Perfect. My microphone was mute as always. Hello, everyone. My name is Andre. I'm based in Copenhagen. I'm a pen tester day by day, and today I have again with me Vincent. Vincent, can you say a few words about yourself just before we start?
Yeah, Vincent, also living in Copenhagen. Cybersecurity consultant. I think that's the most broadest term, and
Very generic.
that's all I'm gonna say about myself. I'm not interesting,
Cool.
man. Let's go to the topic.
Okay, so today's topic is the essential skills for cybersecurity success. And as we already wrote in the description, we're going to cover both soft skills and hard skills. But as I told Vincent just before we started, I think it's important to define what is cybersecurity success before we define what are the soft and the hard skills. So, question for you, Vincent: how do you define cybersecurity success?
Very interesting. I mean, first we need to think about what is your perspective, right? Is it like the perspective on the individual, and do we mean the skills of the individual, or do we mean the skills and the success of the company at large? Because if it's the company at large, I would say cybersecurity success is like, in my opinion, reducing risk to an acceptable level, basically. More than that, I don't really think it is. So the company, it needs to do business. It wants to sell whatever it wants to sell. It wants to make money. And while it's making money, it wants to reduce the risk to an acceptable level. For the individual, I think it's different.
By acceptable, we mean something that doesn't stop daily operations or cost them money in their annual revenue, for example, right? Or
I mean, that's
acceptable.
That is something the company needs to define themselves. I cannot. We can define it for them. I mean, but the company needs to define themselves. I mean, it could be that the company says, look, losing 2 days of business is fine. We don't care. We prefer to have faster innovation and do things more insecurely and suffer that potential 2 days destruction, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So it really depends what the company wants. Of course, there are laws and regulations, but according to some people, you can also see those as more as a risk, right? Like, what's your risk on a fine? Or you can, but that's more of a different mindset. It's like the law we see more as like a minimal thing that we have to do. But
exactly.
I think what for me is way more interesting is what is success for the individual. Right?
And when you say individual, we say for us as security professionals or for people who are part of a company and they have to work with us, or they are responsible to keep their company safe?
No, I honestly just, what do I need to do? I don't care about, and I'm a security professional. What do I need to do to achieve success? That's what's for me most important.
Exactly.
And yeah, what would success look like? I mean, what would success look for you? Because you're mostly pen testing. What do you think is cybersecurity success?
Right. So from an individual perspective, and now I'm going to be very specific to the pen testing word, right? I would say success for me is if I can bring value to the company that I'm working with, right? So from my perspective, I consider it a success if I can uncover some vulnerabilities, and that will help the company in the long run to stay protected from a breach or to further elevate their security level, right?
Yeah, and
So
is it like
Mhm.
is it like a checkbox, right? Like you delivered value now, you found this one vulnerability. Okay, box is checked, right? My
Exactly.
success is done, or is it
Exactly.
different?
I think this also comes down to like pen testing and GRC world, because from a pen testing, I feel sometimes we are very niche, very specific to what we deliver. It's very easy to see the result because it's the exact this vulnerability in a specific this part of the code. Meanwhile, like if we're talking GRC and something that you probably work more with, you are probably more focused on like long-term strategy, I guess, and like where we are moving. How do we how do we encourage the company to cultivate a culture of cybersecurity awareness, and how do we maybe make proactive threat preventions and things like this. So maybe things that are not so easy to pinpoint, but in the long run they will do their job, right?
I mean, for me, actually, if I do it a little bit different, is for me what success is the maximum impact I can make on a company total, right? And first of all, it's ongoing and it changes because success is not really something that it changes from project. But for me, it's like, what is the biggest impact I can make? If I would do a pen test, I don't really do a lot of pen tests, but let's assume I want to feel that if I did that pen test, within my scope, that it's very likely it's not gonna. We found all the big things, right? Nothing is gonna just penetrate it anymore, right?
I
I
see.
really want to go to the max, most optimal result in that sense. That is what for me is success, and I think that also requires a little bit different skills than just if we go into the skills and then just being a good pen testing.
So if I were to summarize, I think what we both have in common of what we mentioned is like delivering quality for the work that we are doing, and that's how we define success at an individual level.
Yeah, and the quality, I mean, that's really, you know, it's a perspective, right? Like you think you do quality work, but the one that hired you is like, yeah, shut up. I just wanted to have this application secure, and your quality report doesn't really care.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter.
Cool. But then if we define like security success as the highest quality of work that we can deliver, coming back to this topic of today's discussion, like what do you think are the essential skills for a cybersecurity professional to provide success and implicitly deliver the highest quality?
Yeah, so I see success a little bit. Yeah, what skills do you need? I mean, first of all, I think in cybersecurity, but I don't really think it's. I think it's kind of cliche, but most people, I don't think people would disagree with like the ability to learn. Right? You need to be really good at the ability to learn, and that don't mean learning a skill of pen testing, but learning the whole concept of a new application, learning the concept of a new company, how business processes work, how the business operates, how new vulnerabilities work. You really, if you don't know how to learn it, just forget it, right? That's the essence of information cybersecurity. The only big difference, I would say, where I'm like a little bit more, I mean, being a good pen tester or being good at your job, I mean, that makes sense. I think nobody will disagree with that. What I do think is where we need to put way more attention is your ability to, one, communicate, and your ability to do project management and show yourself as a project and really not just deliver value but communicate value, because value is really a matter of perception. If you don't communicate, don't deliver, do the right project management, then you can deliver all the value you want, but the company doesn't see it.
Yeah. I think I see this a lot also in the pen testing world, where there are many skilled people who perform amazing pen tests, but they don't have this skill of like maybe project management, and they just go into a rabbit hole and they spend way too much time looking into something, meanwhile overlooking other scopes. And at the same time, they maybe lack to some extent the communication skill, and then they fail to explain maybe to the client how it was done and why it is important for them to understand it, right? So even if they have the hard skills, they are lacking those that we just mentioned, the communication and
Yeah, it's
the
also a matter of you need to have a good skill of understanding what is value for all the stakeholders involved. How can you optimize that value? Like what we do very often is, we focus on the technical thing and we're like, oh, we're gonna optimize how well I find this bug and how well I report on it. And now, I think it's again to pen tester, it's like the more extreme the bug, the better, because it really sounds, look, what an amazing thing I found. But in the end, the biggest thing for me is like, how can you optimize, see value and optimize value? So you need to be able to understand, hey, that's a skill, right? You need to be able to understand what does my manager want, what does the CTO want, what does the CEO wants, what does externals want, and how can I keep optimizing this value? So, what is the task I can do right now that maximizes value? Very often it's not, trying to start finding a new bug. It's maybe making this whole bug more clear, more understandable, more, more.
I think
Focus on that soft skill, right?
Just to add on what you said in terms of like soft skills and the bugs, I think another soft skill important is the pen tester to be able to make the concept abstract enough, and then to see patterns in the application and maybe identify it at the whole organization. For example, if we perform a pen test and we find default credentials, then like a regular pen tester might just report, hey, you have default credentials, I will come back next year and I will pen test again the same application, and I hope you don't have. If we have this concept of like maybe being more abstract, we can take a step back and look at the whole organization and think, okay, you have default credentials in this application, maybe you should look at your all applications and try to scan them all for default credentials, right? So if you find one generic class of bugs in one application, take a step back and look at, maybe you find it everywhere in the company, right? So this, I would say, is another essential skill to
I mean, it goes really back into your ability to learn, and not your ability to learn your skill, but the ability to learn the whole environment in itself. And I think no matter in what situation you are inside, I mean, even if you're an analyst, right? Like, if you find an issue, let's say, I don't know, a user is trying to extract data from a certain server. If you don't understand the context where that server is for, what the company does, and why this is important, why maybe it's not important, you're out of the game, man. And then you will send an email and they're like, yeah, you're exfiltrating data, and the user will say, yeah, but that's normal behavior. I always did this. Our company always did this. Why did you even come with this issue to me, right? It's just annoying.
So the ability to learn also from your mistakes. For example, as an analyst, if you already report a false positive last week, and if you are keep reporting the same false positives without being able to realize that, hey, this actually makes some critical thinking and realize that it's not worth to bother people with this one and focus on more important things, right?
It's also just understanding the whole business in itself, because that's where you're doing it for. And if you don't understand the business, then you don't know how to deliver value. So if you don't know what marketing does, then how do you know if it's unusual or usual behavior?
Exactly.
Right?
For example, marketing teams might send maybe 1,000, 10,000 emails per day, and then if you're an analyst and you don't know what the marketing team is doing, and you suddenly see a spike of 10,000 emails being sent, you might report that as, wow, this is looking suspicious. Like, why are we suddenly sending so many emails, right? But I think this is also coming from the analyst and the cybersecurity team being aware of what the other teams maybe are working on, because if there is no communication in like, hey, we are going to do this marketing campaign tomorrow, then we might suddenly look at it as something very suspicious happening.
Yeah, yeah. And then we have a comment here also that says, hey, communication is key success of your work. If you're not a good communicator, yeah, you're basically done for, right? And the only thing I would add to is, because this is what I see sometimes, I see sometimes on LinkedIn, I even make those LinkedIn posts myself, like, hey, you should be good at communication. And then what I see some people do is they take, the communication, they take the piece of text, they shove it into ChatGPT and say, hey, make it a little bit more, I don't know, readable. That doesn't really make you a better communicator, right? Like, communication really starts with understanding the other, the other people that are working in the organization. If you don't understand the concept, then what do you even want to communicate to them?
So you say being more empathic towards like where the problem is for the other side, and then try to put yourself in their shoes and try to see like what they don't understand and how can you help them get to the same level, right?
Yeah, basically, I would say it's like learning is the most important, because you don't need to only learn your field. You also need to learn the behavior and the work of everybody around you. That makes you a good security guy, because then you can communicate it correctly. If you don't know what the CFO does, then how can you even communicate correctly? Because you still most likely communicate about something technical. Well, he just likes to hear, I just really wish you just told me how much money that's going to cost me.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. And you mentioned learning as one of the most important skills. And just two comments over here, like, how do you stay on top of your game, right? How do you stay all the time updated, meanwhile still working on what you have to work? Yeah, maybe you can answer that one, and I will come with the second comment afterwards.
So how do you stay on top what you need to learn? I mean, the biggest one here is prioritization, and that becomes a little bit in value maximization. Is you cannot learn everything, man. It's too much. You know how many threats are going on, so you have so many threats going on, so many new tools that are coming out, so many new business and things that are going on. So the thing is, the first thing you should look at is where can we learn that maximizes my value of my time spent there. If you don't ask that question, you're never gonna stay. You don't have to stay top of game. Honestly, you don't have to say top of game. You need to know everything. I think that's a mistake. You need to figure out which things do I know to maximize my value, and that often means that you're not top of game, because if you try to be top of game, then you need to try to interpret the whole world, and that's impossible.
Exactly. And at least I, in the beginning, in the first years of cybersecurity, I also fell into this trap of like trying to learn everything, because we have like web applications, and then we have Active Directory, and then you have cloud, and then you have mobile pen testing, and you have all of this. So I learned one, and then I learned the other, and the other, and I felt like this is way too much to learn everything, But once you already started, you have some basic concepts, and then you can, as you mentioned, connect the dots and understand like, okay, this web application is quite similar with mobile to some extent, and then there are some differences, right? But I don't have to learn everything from the scratch when I switch to another subject. And then the second one was like, don't go very deep into the concept if you are not going to use it right now. For example, I need to know something about mobile. I will read some basic concepts and understand like at a large scale how it's working. But I don't know exactly at this moment how to perform a pen test on a specific mobile application. But once I start the project, I will start to dive into that. So I feel like I'm not using my memory. I'm not filling up my memory with concepts that I'm not using them right now.
I mean, it's very relevant. It's also like limit the amount of things you want to learn. Stop it, because if you learn too much, I've seen it with some people that try to learn too much. They take all the certifications, they take all, and then you start talking to them, and you can see they're so. I even have it for myself. They're so busy in their head, they cannot communicate anymore. They talk like robots, man. because they're so in the head busy with those concepts that they just learned that they cannot even listen and learn from the person that's right in front of them. So, you know, really focus on what delivers most value, figure out what delivers most value, and know the time period that you can learn is very, very small. Don't learn too much because you will break yourself.
I think this is another trap that maybe a lot of people are falling into, is learning all the time and not putting actually into practice, because you can learn a lot and read many books, but when you actually start a project and you hit like the real world and how things actually are in real world, you will realize that not everything that you learn it is like that. You will encounter situations and concepts that it couldn't be covered in your learning experience, and you have to like go back to learning and come back to the practice. So it's not just a big time span of like 2 years of learning and then come to work and you never learn again. And that's why personally I don't like that much universities where you like spend 2 years, maybe 4 years in a degree about cybersecurity, and after 4 years they will tell you, okay, now you are done learning, go and practice cybersecurity. And maybe this can be confusing for some people, like I learned 4 years and now I'm coming into cybersecurity and I have to continue learning. Like why is it like that?
I mean, it's also a very interesting one. It's like, what do we mean exactly with learning? Is it going to courses and looking on the internet? Because honestly, I haven't done a real cybersecurity course now in a while, because, it's also like learning is also just a little bit of a mindset thing. If we're sitting together, I have the mindset, hey, we're going to learn something. If I sit with a marketing person, I will, as long as I sit in marketing, and I talk to them, and I have no other reason to talk to them, I will just learn whatever I can from the marketing person, right? So it's more of an active learning mindset and not per se how many courses you're doing.
Exactly.
And which courses you're doing it. Like I just mentioned before the meeting, I was writing the book, and you asked me why you're writing the book. I said the only reason I'm writing a book is to learn to write. Right? And what better way to do it than just write a book?
Exactly. And like putting into practice what you are learning is the best way to learn, probably. And as you mentioned, it's more like of a mindset. Like when you encounter a new subject, like be open about it and try to see, is it actually worth knowing this thing or is it not? And then if you find something that you think it connects with everything that you know already, like okay, this sounds interesting, I will remember it from the next time, or ask yourself, where else can I reuse this skill?
I mean, a very good one is, I see it also a little bit in the comments now. It's like, hey, you need to lean into your strengths, and that also comes in from, learn about yourself. That's that's a good one, right? Learn which strength you have, which ones you don't. I'm still figuring out daily which things I'm strong at and which one I'm not, because it's not very general, because it's very specific in which situations even as you are in your strength and which one not. So, and that also comes, learning is also like knowing when to stop learning, right? On certain topics. It's also, sounds weird, but that's also a part of learning about yourself.
Yeah. And I'm working with. We just started recently a Discord server this week for pen testers, and some of the questions that I get is like, "Oh, I did this course, and I did this course, and I did this course," and my question was, "Okay, but when are you going to start pen testing?" And they are like, "But I don't feel ready. I don't feel yet ready, and maybe I should take one more course, or maybe I should read one more book." And the thing is, like, you don't have to keep learning more. You have to put into practice what you have learned. So instead of falling in this trap of keep learning, you have to put into practice, and then it will start another type of learning while you are putting into practice all these things.
It actually reminds me of a case of working with a colleague of mine, and he had so many certifications. I think I can fill this whole room with paper with how many certifications I had, and some of them were vendor certifications. And one day he asked me, because I normally don't really do certifications, I think they might know. And he asked me, "Can you help me out with the certification?" I said, "Yes, sure, I can help you out." So I did that, the learning with him. I'm like, this is this makes me dumber. This doesn't make me smarter because it was from a vendor. And vendors are really good at this. They make you dumber. They don't make you smarter because the way they phrase the questions, the way they want you to answer. So you need to be very critical about what you're learning. And I think in cybersecurity, be very, very vigilant against vendor certifications and vendor trainings. They don't make you. I generally speaking say they don't make you smarter.
Yeah, but this is just another skill that you need, right? In cybersecurity, I don't think you can be successful without critical thinking. Like everything that you see, you kind of have to question, and you kind of have to dig more into it and question, like, is this as it says it is, or I have to check this and double check it from other sources and so on.
Yeah, I mean, now we have 5 minutes left, so maybe it's good to sum up. I think we kind of agreed very much on the learning part. Our definitions of success were a little bit different, I would say, even though they were sort of aligned. What other skills did we mention that we were like, this is really critical? Like I mentioned, I think also you need to be good at whatever you're doing, right? Like if you were, I think that's a no-brainer. There's nothing to talk about, to be honest. You actually also agreed with project management. Not everybody agrees with me on that one.
Yeah, I agree because we have very tight schedules on pen tests. Like for example, we have 1 or 2 weeks, and then sometimes you have very large scopes. And if you don't segment your pen test, for example, in like this, today I will focus on this, and then I have to say enough is enough, and I have to move on to be able to cover it. You won't be able to do it. So definitely project management. Yeah.
Are there? I mean, we mentioned also communication, and I said, we need to combine that a little bit with your ability to learn, especially with collaboration with other people.
Critical thinking.
Missed? Or is there any? We have 3 minutes left. Is there any skill you say, look, this one we missed?
Super critical. I think I covered everything: abstractization, communication, critical thinking, the ability to learn, and then the ability to put into practice what you learn, and this concept of continuous learning, not just learn and then go and practice for the rest of your life. Just learn and practice side by side in your daily life.
And I have one last one maybe I want to add. And I would say you need to have the skill to be bold and brave, right?
Bold and brave. Okay.
Yeah, because what you said also with certifications, like, oh yeah, but I feel I'm not ready yet. I'm not good enough. Stop that. Just dive into the deep, dive into the known. Just be a little bit brave and just go do it. Right? That's a skill you need to have. The same is with if you have a security incident at the NLC level. Just step up into sea level and say, look, man, I don't know what you did, but you kind of fucked up.
Yes.
It's kind of brave to do, right?
Exactly.
I think, and that is really critical. And that, I think, the biggest reason most people don't even collaborate with, other departments and other things is because they're just not brave enough to go talk to them.
So to some extent, it's like the confidence of communicating what you know. Because if you are as a security professional, you're not confident on what you are transmitting, the others will be like, okay, maybe he doesn't know what he's talking, so it's better to not implement these things.
I wouldn't say confident, because I would say you should even do it if you're not confident, and that's why the brave part comes in.
I understand.
Even if
that's interesting. Do it. Okay. Interesting concept. Interesting. But I think we are running out of time right now. I don't know if we have more questions, but we are pretty much.
I think we're good. We had some more internal conversation going on between some people, but that's good. But cool. I think we can wrap up.
Nice. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining, and we might come up with a different subject in the coming weeks. But thank you, Vincent, for joining me, and have a nice day, everyone. Bye bye.
Thanks.
Bye.